So this here is a Rover V8 out of a Land Rover Discovery 2. So this was pretty much the last engine that went into the Discovery 2, and this was the last model. This one itself was joined to a 4-speed ZF transmission with the center diff lock transfer case on it. So today I just basically want to talk about the engine and then run through different things on it, just as like a overlook of this engine. I quite like these engines. They're quite cheap. Parts from them are cheap, readily available. Yeah, I think there should be more of them out there, but yeah, they are quite old now. So yeah, basically they're just a push rod V8, a 90-degree V8, aluminium block with steel liners and aluminium heads. It's got a single camshaft down the center with hydraulic lifters, push rods, two rockers on 2 shafts, one under here, one under here. There's 2 valves per cylinder, so it's quite basic. And yeah, I've got one in my Discovery 2 at the moment, and it runs a dream. These engines, because they have an aluminium block, they are known to crack around the steel liner and allow coolant into either your crankcase or up into your cylinder, causing head gasket issues and whatnot. But yeah, as long as you don't let it overheat, that issue should stay away. So up here you've got your coolant temp sensor. This pipe here would come off to your radiator. This one here comes off, goes to your heater core. So down here we would have the water pump. This is where your water pump would be, with an inlet coming in and then your 2 outlets going into each block. Down here we've got a crank position sensor. Behind this timing cover is the camshaft sprocket, and then down here you've got your crank sprocket for your camshaft, as well as your oil pump, which is a G-rotor style oil pump. So that takes oil out of the sump, pumps it up through your oil filter. On this engine there's no oil cooler, so it would basically run it straight up and then into your galleries. So also up here we've got the fuel. This engine is fuel injected, so you've got your fuel injectors and your fuel rails, which both join at the back with a single feed, no return. So it's basically just got 40 pound of fuel pressure at it all the time, and if you need to bleed it, that's your fuel bleeder there. We've got knock sensors on each side of the block, one on this side, one on the other side. You've got your coolant drains on each side of the block as well, obviously your spark plugs, and then your head bolts. This here is your oil pressure switch. This is the one that kicks your light out on the dash once you reach oil pressure. So that will bring a light on at about 5 psi, I'm pretty sure. We'd have a starter motor here usually, and then this is where your engine mount would mount to. Down here we've got plugs. These plugs come out so you can take the torque converter off the actual engine. So when you split it, the ideal, you pull that plug out, remove the 4 bolts out of the torque converter, and then split your transmission, leaving the torque converter on the transmission. I've already taken the flex plate and the ring gear off this one, which is down here. So we got the 2 coil packs, which each do 4 cylinders each, 4 spark plugs each, I should say. Obviously this is your intake manifold, quite a large intake manifold on it. This is your idle air control, which basically allows air to bypass your throttle body. This is the throttle body's position sensor. This here is your vapor inlet solenoid. This lets vapor pressure in your fuel tank into the intake manifold when it needs to, under certain load conditions and whatnot. This here is obviously your throttle body. There's two positions for two different throttle cables, because one's for your cruise control. This here, which we don't really use in Australia, this is your intake heater, so you have coolant run through that to keep the throttle body warm so it can't freeze up. There's your engine mount down here, engine oil dipstick. She's got plenty. We've got a crank position sensor down here too. An engine mount, obviously. And that's pretty much it. We've got your rocker covers, your heads. Quite a basic engine, really. Bang for buck, I think they're excellent. My discovery too, I've already rebuilt one of these, and I managed to rebuild it for quite cheap, which I was very pleased with the outcome on that. But yeah, depending on how this video goes, I'd like to strip this one down on camera, find out what's wrong with it. I basically bought this off a bloke sitting in his shed on the floor. He didn't know what was wrong with it. Could be bad, engine might be unusable, but yeah, strip it down, figure out what's going on, and then look at rebuilding it on camera as well. Depending how that goes, I'll look at rebuilding the transmission and the transfer case as well. I should mention that this engine has got not original heads on it. The heads were changed at some stage. This is also a LPG inlet as well. For some reason they decided they'd change the heads, and they did have LPG on it. Not too sure why. I did see that this cylinder here looked a little bit more wet than the others, so we'll have to investigate and see what's going on there. Apart from some leaks on it, which is pretty common on these engines, it doesn't look in too bad a shape. Most of it looks salvageable, but we'll soon find out once we open it up what the actual problem with it is. So yeah.